taken, and this is not basically individual databases. So whatever databases you have on that volume would be backed up. Okay. As I told you earlier, automated backups are enabled by default, and they're kept for a defined retention periods 0 to 35 days, and it must be in an available state for automated backups to happen. Okay. So let's stop it right now before I can move further. Stop it here. I'm taking you to the console again. I'm telling you what does it mean basically. See the status here. This is creating. Until this starts showing available here, you will not be able to create a backup. Okay. If it is anything else other than the available, your backup will not happen. Okay. That's what I want to show you. Let's go back. So must be in available state for the automated backups to happen. Then manual backup can be created by taking a DB snapshot, and automatic backups occur daily during the preferred backup window. If you have specified one, if not, then AWS will manage at their own. During the automatic backup window, your storage input output might be suspended briefly, and that's what I told you. During the backup window, the DB performance affects because of this. Input output gets suspended for some time during the backup windows, and you might feel elevated latencies during the backup. For multi-AZ deployed MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, and Oracle, backup is taken from standby instance, so no input output activity suspended on the primary database, while on SQL input output gets suspended briefly because it's still taken from the primary, not the secondary. And it will happen when you have a multi-AZ kind of a deployment, not a standalone deployment. Okay. So 5 RDS services, they will not feel that performance issues, while if you are using SQL Server, it will still feel that performance issues because input output will be suspended. Now this is very important to remember. If you choose to retain automated backups and when you delete a DB instance, the automated backups are saved for the full retention period. And if you don't choose retain automated backups, when you delete a database instance, all automated backups are deleted with the DB instance. And after they are deleted, the automated backups cannot be recovered. You choose to have Amazon RDS create a final DB snapshot before it deletes your DB instances. You can use that to recover your DB instances. Or you can use a previously created manual snapshot. Manual snapshots are not deleted with the deletion of databases. Remember that, because when you are having a large database, the snapshot might be consuming a lot of storage. So you need to understand this concept very well, that automated backups, they are retained, and if you don't choose to retain automated backup, they will be deleted, and once deleted, you will not be able to retrieve them back. And if you have taken a manual snapshot or a manual backup, that will not get deleted with the database deletion. So if at all you delete the database, you might keep on getting the bill for storage because this occupies the storage. Okay. And you can have up to 100 manual snapshots per region. Got it? So this is something which you got to see when you start deleting your databases. Once we click on delete database, it asks you whether you want to have a final, or whether you want to have a final snapshot, or you want to retain the automated backups or not. By default, it's checked up. If you remove that check mark, then whatever automated backups have been happened, they would be deleted along with the database deletion. Okay. I would like you to, okay, you already getting it recorded, fine. Okay, just so certain things you need to remember, that is the retention period, that is stays from 0 to 35 days. So you can restore your databases from this to this period. If you get a question on based on that, up to 35 days, you can get this restoration possible, because this is the retention period for your automated backups. Now we'll talk about read replicas. Basically, these are special type of DB instance created from a source DB instance and can be used to redirect read-only traffic to improve the performance of the DB. Now, as I said, most of the relational databases, they are basically getting both write and read operations, and most of the time they would be receiving read operations, and that read operations would be affecting the performance while performing the write operations as well. Most of the time databases gets queries, and the queries are nothing but read operations. So if you think that your database performance is getting down because of heavy read, you can think of creating something called read replicas. What if you don't want to retain it for even a single day? That's why it is given from 0 to 35 days. Because once you retain it, you have to pay for it, isn't it? It will occupy some storage. What if you don't want to? You just like what we are doing today. We are just creating something our demonstration, right? Why I want to store that thing in my backups. So that's why they started from 0 to 35. That is my view. AWS might be thinking in a different way, but that's what I think. Because before they cannot have, I mean, lot of time you will see that these all things start from 0, because if you don't want to have that option, you can put it 0, so it will not be, basically it's like not enabling the retention. Okay, because once you retain it, it will be going to the storage, get stored, and you have to pay for it. So if they keep it by default 1, so whoever is enabling the backup, he might not know that this going to cost him money, right? So that's why AWS has forced you to select that number of days. Okay, this number of days I want to retain it, right? That's why it is, I think, 0, starting from 0. Now this is, as we're talking about the read replicas, so this is a special type of DB instance which gets created from a source DB instance and can be used to redirect read-only traffic. This point, please keep it in your mind. If somehow, in some way, not a straightaway question, but it will gonna give you an option, and it will give you a scenario where you would end up using read replicas, and it's one of the way you can increase the performance of your databases by using read replicas. So if you find a question, whether in an interview or in a certification exam, where your database is suffering or having performance issues, one of the solution or one of the option can be read replicas, which can help. Because what read replica does, it is exactly the same copy of your database, and all the read traffic can be redirected to it, and the main copy or the main database is freed only for the write operation. So that will help you to improve the performance of your database. Okay, so this is what the read replicas are. Using read replicas, you can elastically scale out beyond the capacity constraints of a single database instance for read heavy database workloads. Now what is this? Because you're getting one more this is another replica, another database instance of for you. So you can basically scale out, which the capacity constraint which can suffer on a single DB instance, right? Because you're getting one more in addition, the same copy of it. Then updates made to the source DB instance are asynchronously copied to the read replica as well. So whatever updates happening on the source DB, they will keep on getting copied on the replica. Your applications connect to the read replica the same way they do to any database instance. There is no changes in that. Okay, they will have the similar kind of a connectivity thing. They are supported by MariaDB, MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL, and Microsoft SQL Server. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are supported, and your read replica can be promoted to a standalone instance as a disaster recovery solution if the source DB instance fails. But that will break the replication between these two. So that's what about the read replicas. Here, if you see this one, do not think that Aurora do not give you read replicas. In that way, there's a different arrangement for the read replicas. Okay, so we also have there, but this is something different. So we're talking about all these 5 instances. Earlier, there was no read replica for SQL Server. Now, even the SQL Server started supporting that. Okay, so let's stop here and see what is the status of our database. It's available, right? If you click on here, so it will start showing you the summary, and you can have those connectivity and security options here. You can see the endpoint. This is the endpoint DNS port. This is the port. This is my availability zone. This is the VPC in which it is being hosted, subnet group. and these are the subnets which is there, which is part of this Northern Virginia region. And then we have, this is the security group which has been created for us. Public accessibility, no. And then we have security group rules. Currently these are the rules which has been specified, and no proxies and no replication also. Okay, now if you click on monitoring, this we have not enabled additional or detailed monitoring, so certain basics thing you can see here like secret relation, DB connections and all. Then here you can see the log and events. So this is DB instance created, DB instance restarted, all you can see that. Okay, now on the configuration, here you can see the configuration of database, like your instance ID, your engine version, your database name, license model, options group, what is the ARN, resource ID, all these things, right? When created time, parameter groups, deletion protection is disabled or not, and you can also see whether it's a multi-AG or it's not a multi-AG, it's showing that it's not a multi-AG. Okay, then this is a master username. Okay, and this is RAM and CPU and instance type which you have selected, no encryption, what kind of storage we have, all these things you can find from here. Recommendation time, we have automated backups enabled, and it says enhanced monitoring is not enabled. We can enable that, but we know that this is going to cost us, so we are not going to do that. Then the maintenance and backups. So here you can see that if you have anything maintenance coming up, or you have any AutoMiner version upgrade, what's the status of it, all these things are available here. Okay, you can see this backups, right? And then the tags, we have not given tags, so there's nothing over there. Let's go to the basics one. I think so you can do that, Anshuman. So if you go to the databases, select the database, and here you can do stop, reboot, delete. You can create an Aurora read replicas. We have not spoken about that. You can take a snapshot, right? And if you need to change something, you can click on modify. Okay. So if you want to change something, you can change it from here. Your multi-AG deployments, allocate your all these things, and this is something, Anshuman, this is for you, man. Look at it here. Okay, here you can change the password, and anything else you want to change, you can change from here. We're not doing it. I just want to show you where you can modify. Okay, let's go back to databases. Guys, any questions by now, or shall we move further? Okay, it's simple. To access the database, you need to have an SQL based application, or your application can help you to do that. Okay, so you want to access, Ranjit, you can bring your own license or you can buy it separately as well. Okay, now someone has asked how to back it up. So this is a place where you can take a snapshot. That would be a manual backup. Otherwise, it would be automatically backup by the window which you have specified, or which you, if not specified, then AWS will take care of it, and it would be automatically taken once in a day. If you want, you can click on and take snapshot. So give it a name, call it, let's say, my first manual snap, and take a snapshot. You'll get a backup now. Yes, Anshuman, you can use SQL client. Ujjwal, yes, you can do that, but that database will have a different DNS endpoint altogether. There will be a new instance, will not be the same one. Ravi, no need. Okay, let's do. We have got some time. Let's start. Let's have a connectivity check of this one. Okay, let me quickly create an EC2 instance and see how we can do that. Ujjwal, do you got your answer? And Ravi, see, I think I showed you. If you take a web backup window, you can specify your time where the backup will be happen. Otherwise, it will be happening automatically based upon AWS preferences. If you have your own preference, you can select a window. Ujjwal, you got your answer? Okay, the first snapshot is something which is a full snapshot. After that, if your database keeps on working, it was online, then the changes would be happening to your databases. You will have to have another snapshot, that but those snapshots would be the incremental snapshots. Okay, and you would be able to restore till the point you have taken the snapshots. Okay, it's pretty basic. If your whole database is there in the single snapshot is enough. If it is in multiple snapshots, you would require multiple snapshots for restoration.
Sir, can I ask you one question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Because I'm assigned this task for this sprint. That's why. Um, so like we have already a running database, and it is every day taking snapshot. So one question is, I have two questions related to the same scenario. One
Right,
question
right.
is find how to find the snapshot which is full and incremental. By other criterias are also there or not, to find out. And let's say, suppose I find that this is incremental. So how do you, how many snapshot sequence do I make to restore it?
Okay, Ujjwal, thing is that you need not to find by, you can find it by the date. Okay, the very first one would be the full one.
Okay.
Got it? The very first one would be the full one. Or if you have taken a manual snapshot, that would be the full one. Got
Uh,
it?
Sir, one more question. Like
Yep.
my database is running. I
Mm-hmm.
want a full snapshot. So can I take a full snapshot of the DB instantly?
Yes, yes. Then you can take a manual snapshot, right? Automatic snapshots are full and incremental. Manual,
Okay.
whenever you create, the final one would be the final status of your database.
Okay. And like let's say we don't go into production until unless there is a problem, right? So
Right.
I create a new database, and can I restore from old my full snapshot of the
Come
new
again?
data?
No. Come again.
I want to create same production database using the full snapshot, but new database with new endpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So suppose there is a full snapshot already sitting at AWS RDS.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
So can I go and right click it and ask to restore it as a new database?
Every time when you do a restore operation, it would be a new database. You cannot bring back your old one, because when you do a restore, you will have a new DNS entry. So it would be a new database which is equal or which is same as was the previous one, but it will not be the previous database. It will be a new one only. Got it? Whenever you restore, it will be a new database. You need not to mention it anywhere. Anytime you do a restore operation here in RDS, you will get a new database.
And one last question. Suppose I created a database, let's say 2 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and at that time, we took it automatically took the full backup. From
Okay.
that till now is 2 months. Means we have a lot of snapshot, incremental snapshot. So does
Mm-hmm.
it automatically in Windows it goes incremental and then certain day after it takes again full. So does it automatically takes full or it goes on and on with incremental?
I just showed you the what is the retention period we have. Do we have retention period of 60 days? No, right? So every after 35, it depends what is your retention period, right? So whenever your retention period is over, you will have a full backup. I mean the full snapshot.
Okay.
We forgot that thing. See, there was a retention period we have, right? That says 0 to 35 days. So yeah, let's say you have selected 35 days. Till 35 days, you will have those one full and incremental. Once that 35 days comes, the very first one got deleted automatically to free some storage to you. And then you will have, because there is no full backup now or the full snapshot now, you will have another full snapshot.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Concept clear, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Okay, guys. So I was wondering, a lot of people asking how to connect to it, and we do not have that much of time. Otherwise, I would have shown you with the help of a PHP application how we can connect to it. Let's do it, guys. Okay. Let me log into the EC2 instance and I'll connect one with an EC2 instance with this one, because I'm not a DB guy, but still I know how a couple of things about it, and I'll show you what do I know I can share with you guys. Okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll go to services. You still see the screen, right? I mean the management console. I don't think we will be able to do it today itself, but try quickly doing that. I'm going to create a EC2 instance, and so we'll try to connect this EC2 instance with the MySQL database which we have. Okay, I'm very happy with this performance. Let's go back running instance. Quickly launch an instance. Just keeping it copied like this. Not storage. Add tags, no tags, security group. Select anything we have existing. And we have RDS. Okay. Let's create a new security group. Call it new RDS demo. Okay. Let's add rule HTTP. Okay. So testing, again launch. Launch. Do we have no key pair found? Okay, let's use a new one. This thing is launched. Let me prepare how we can connect to it in the meantime. It is getting ready. Let me see if I can log into it. Not ready yet. I think we can do it now. I want to log in. Stop the share. I'll take you to the console. We'll quickly install a couple of things which we can buy, which can help us to basically check this thing. So today we're gonna install yum install, and we will not do this HTTP installation anymore. We'll do the PHP this time, and we will install that MySQL package for PHP also. So HTTPD PHP dash MySQL. I think that's the package name. And that's, yes, I think this is not the correct one, so I'll go with this one. Yum install HTTPD PHP MySQL. That's what we are going to install. Okay. Cool. Let's clear it. Let's go to that directory. Okay. And now we'll download that package from WordPress, which is a PHP based thing, right? So let me get the WordPress URL. It's downloading now. You can see it's a tar file. If you do ls, you will see the tar file here. Okay, let's untar it. It's done. Let's copy this thing. The whole content of the directory too. our HTML directory. Okay, let's remove all these things. We don't need anymore. Let's remove the tar file also. It's removed. Let's change the permissions. That would be WP content we have. Okay, okay. So let's change the ownership also. Start the service HTTPD start. Check config HTTPD on. Okay, cool. So this service is ready. Let's go back to the console and go to the security group, because this instance is a part of a different security group while the RDS is a part of a different security group. Okay, let's go to this one. RDS as SG edit inbound rules. Let's add one more rule here, which would be your again MySQL and Aurora type, the same port number, and this time I'm gonna put this as security group which we just created. So this was the security group behind which my EC2 instance is. So I'm asking all traffic coming from this security group should be allowed to reach to this database. I'm gonna save this thing. It has been saved. Let's go to the database configuration again. Dashboard. Sorry. Click on the running instance and find out the IP address. This is my IP address. Let me see if it is ready. I'll just put it here. So it started showing the the WordPress thing. Okay, so we need to have database name, username, password, and host, and table prefix, and then we can start installing it. So let's go here. But before that, we can go to the AWS console and get all those options or the information from there. So this is my endpoint. So I'm going to copy this one. We have a username of admin, if you remember. If you look at it here into the configuration. So this would be my username which I'm going to use, admin. Okay, let's go there. Click on let's go, and it's asking for the database name. So what was our database name? I forgot. Let's go back and check. This is Bhuvan DB1. No, sorry, not Bhuvan DB1. This is first DB1. Okay, so this is first DB1. Username was admin. Okay, password was, and this was by host. So I'll put this which I copied from there. If everything is correct, then we would be able to connect to it. And yes, we are able to connect to it. It says, sorry, but I cannot write the wp-config.php file. So we need to create wp-config.php file manually and then copy this thing there. So I'm going to copy and paste it there. I'll control C this one. I'll go to the console. I'll do I'll create this wp-config/.php file manually. wp-config.php. I'm using Nanotext editor and paste it there. The name is correct. It's correct, looks like. And I'll just paste this thing here and control X. Yes, enter. So we have done that. So if everything is correct, we can go and run the installation. Okay. Okay, okay, okay. This is what we did. This is what I pasted here. The whole thing which was there on. I think it is not copied properly, man. Okay, let me recheck it. Let me do it again. I think it's I'm deleting it, doing it again so that you can see it what I did basically. So I just copied and pasted there the content which I got from that PHP thing. You see, all these are basically your PHP related information or the configuration which we have. Okay, wait, why am I doing this? Let's Control X. No, that's. I'm gonna change this one. Guys, who's with the Linux skills can just let me know how to delete it. It's done. Okay, let's do it again. Nano wp dash config. This is what I did. I'm showing you again. I'll just went there, pasted that whole content here. Okay, and I'll just save it. Control X. Yes, enter. Okay, that's what we did. If you do the ls now, you will see this wp content.wp-config.php is here. Done, guys. So let's take you back to the what you call screen. So this is where we are, and here it is asking the site title. Let's give it our first PHP site username. We know that the username was admin. The password, let's put something which is normally do 1 2 3. It's very weak. I'm confirm the use of weak password. Here you can put an email ID. Let's say abc@gmail.com. Here basically you need to put a valid email ID, which I'm not doing currently. Discourage it. No, don't discuss, leave it. And install WordPress. So now the WordPress will be installed and you would be able to, you can see it's successful and it is using MySQL in the background. You can log in and create a website or whatever you want to do. Username was admin and the password was password@123. So that's how you can make use of the thing in the background. Got it? So we're done here. You can customize this PHP and you have now, in fact, now you have a kind of a two-tier application where you are using MySQL database in the background. I'm the database tier and you're using PHP on the web tier. Got it, guys? This is how you can connect. Other than that, MySQL comes with two different utilities which you can use. There's one thing all I know, that's I think Workbench, and there's one more command line based